Welcome to Pagan Crafting. I'm your host, Cara. Today is mapping our magical new year ahead with the 8 Sabbats. This is a spread that we're going to make a magical dial for the energies we wish to embrace. 2 previous videos, one was invoking the energies for each part of the year with the Sabbats, as well as how to coffee stain your paper with stencils. Now we're putting it all together, so join us today as we map our nature grimoire today. Let's start off with a little bit of recap. We haven't done a nature grimoire with me in a couple months here. So we're going to start off with the book blessing, and then we have a book sigil that we did. We went through 40 nature grimoire prompts. I kept them at my book, beginning of it, so it keeps me inspired. We have the Ogham alphabet. I haven't launched a video for that yet, but I will. Celtic astrology, heartbeat of my native land. I talked about land spirits on these next pages and how I can respect that. Now I'm just going to warm up that page with my energy. I love how this signature is already feeling. I only have 1 page left in this signature, and then we're on to a new one. Since we're going to be mapping out our year ahead with the Sabbats, I like to use a map. I have so many maps, I'm not feeling bad that I'm cutting this one up. This map was from, I believe, the 1990s. And my little National Geographic collection of books comes with a lot of maps. And I have a lot of doubles. So I'm not being bad or anything like that. But I'm just going to enjoy this map for what I got it for. And it was to definitely enjoy some collaging, some artwork. And when I collect my National Geographics, I definitely go for the ones that have map inserts. You get some really cool stuff, but these 2 colors are gonna look so sharp together. I'm very excited. So just trimming off the excess here, as you saw that I outlined in pencil, and I'm gonna go lengthways because I'm gonna be covering up. Not feeling that way. Yeah, that'll look cool. I'm going to be covering up all the major words on this map. But before we do that, let's glue it down. So now that I have all my Mod Podge down, my center has been marked. Once it's down, it's down. I tried moving it, and I was having a bit of a time. So, all right, let's squeeze it down. Looks like it wants to live there, so we'll just have to trim off any excess of the pages. Now, some of this was dried so fast that I had to reapply. Now we're going to let that dry for a while. Introducing the Nature Grimoire with me. We did this dial spread with the Sabbats in our last video, and you could use that PDF download for this project, or you can, I'm going to introduce 3 more pages to this PDF, and you could also work with that. I'll show you that later on in the video. First, we're going to cut out a little window. I kept part of this dial on here so you can line it up a lot easier, and you can make some easier cuts than having to measure it out yourself. So we're just going to slice out that little window. And you could also print this out on like an old vintage paper, or you could also coffee dye it too. But I have plans, so I'm gonna keep mine white for now. Now, in another video that we did, as you see here, we did some coffee dyeing of paper with some stencils, and I want to find a nice centerpiece That one may be a nice one. These ones are just a little bit too light for me. I was hoping this one would work, but I think I'm gonna go with the latter. So I'm gonna use this now as a stencil. And using my pencil for the inside of the window, and we're gonna cut that out just momentarily. And now don't throw out the excess of this piece. We're going to be using the rest of this stenciled coffee dyed paper later on in this project. Now I'm going to be marking a hole here, and I did print this out on cardstock paper. And I have my window that I've now transferred on here. I'm going to just quickly cut that out. Oh, it's gonna look so cool. Let's have a look now. Ooh, it worked perfectly. I'm so excited. I love dials. I'm gonna trim this down just a little bit. I would like it just a tiny bit smaller than my little dial with the window. Use my original stencil, my original template, sorry, as the marker for my holes. And also this stencil paper, the stenciled cardstock coffee dyed paper is quite thick that I use. And I'm going to go with a blue here push pin. This will open up the tack in the back. And this is, it'll match our works here. Now we're going to use some white textured gesso. You see me use the clear gesso before, but this one I would like to mute some of these colors. I'm going to take out all the major words. I just want to see a map. So I'm going to take out Mexico, but just leaving the X because X marks the spot. Thought it looks kind of cool. It's in the center of the map. But we're going to go through all the different letters that I have. I'm also going to mute out Texas, and as well as the words all along the coast. Layers, 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 just nice and thin. Take your time. This gesso will dry very quickly. And before I go any further, I better line my paper with some paper towel. There, that'll protect the other pages. Now I can go to town. I don't mind going off the edges of the paper now. And now coming in for another layer. I did 2 to 3 layers in each area, depending on what needed to be done, but the words definitely I hit a couple times. We're going to let that dry now. Now we're going to go back to another PDF download that I've created for this project. I'm going to show you all the PDF downloads together at the end of this video, or something a little bit differently. I wound up just making these as I was creating this project. So bear with me. I made it on my Canva as we're going. So I'm just going to use a little spray bottle with some coffee stain inside. I have coffee water mixed, just a couple teaspoons, of instant coffee, and I put this one in my oven to dry it. I put it in for 8 minutes at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I can't find my paper cutter, so I'm gonna have to use the old-fashioned way and use a ruler and a pencil. Weird. But now I wish I knew where my paper cutter was. And we're gonna cut that out. And I'm just using thinner paper here, just some regular printer paper. I didn't use cardstock for this because I'm gonna be putting a background on this too. Using some distress oxide. This is like a deep walnut, an espresso would be nice, or a vintage paper would work very beautifully. as well for the Distress Oxide. The difference of the two is just a little bit of punch out. That's all it needs. I love using the stamps in this way. Going around all the edges, and then I'm going to put a little bit on the paper too in some areas. Hitting the edges just to give this another flavor, because this one I was going to leave by itself, but then I realized once the lighter paper is on the ocean blue, it just wasn't popping out as well. So a little bit of Distress Oxide for that too. Now, playing around with different configurations, I didn't quite know what I was doing yet at this point in time. And I said, yeah, you know what? That needs to punch out a little bit more. So I cut little backgrounds for my headers. And what I've done here is I'm mapping out my magical year ahead. Instead of doing a vision board, I'm using my Grimoire and the energies of the dial. So for each month, I can spin the dial, read the energy, reflect, and know what I need to work on. Now that I've decided, let's glue these down. Just using some double-sided tape, making quick make of it. And I'm using some turquoise, some royal blues, and some white for this next part. Now, I did wind up using the metallic blue, not intentional, but it's the color I wanted. Not necessary, it needs to be metallic. It's just the colors that I wanted to invoke. I'm really feeling the blues with the map colors here in this picture with the coffee color, coffee cream. I got these lovely stencils off of Amazon and they are treating me just fine. Stamping in with a makeup sponge. Making quick work of this. And if you overdo the layers, then you could overdo, it can kind of bleed a little bit. So be careful how many times you go over this. You will kind of want to make quick work of it. And because I put a lot of green on first, when I did my blues, I overdid it a little bit. So I wound up fixing that up later. For me, it got a little bit muddled in the corner. So I wound up just adding a little bit more paint later on. And I think it looked pretty sharp. There we go. And then once I bring in some other colors over top of that, you can see that it got a little bit bled out underneath the stencil. Happy little accidents right here. You never know what could happen. And I'm working my way from the middle all the way to the outside. And we notice I'm not changing the paint on the makeup brush nor changing the makeup brush. I'm just letting the colors blend really nicely together and only dabbing a little bit on at a time. I'm even dabbing off the excess so I don't get any bleeds underneath the stencil. Now, of course, you could use a stamping brush if you have one, but I really love the makeup sponges. They make quick works a thing and the blending is gorgeous. And bringing in a little bit of blue. I'm going to add some flowers here and there using some centerpieces. I felt like a little bit more blue was needed on this piece. And one more. Perfect. So now I'm going to go back to my white gesso. So this is in white. This will fade out a little bit lighter. I'm just going to mute the colors a little bit more, just like I muted some of the words and the titles on this map. I want to give it kind of like your grandmother's plate set with the old white and blue dishes that she had kind of feel. I don't want the blues and greens to be too predominant in this piece because I am going to be using some other pieces over top of it, so I don't need to get too detailed. Adding in some white stencil just to blend it down. And here I'm just adding a little bit here and there, going right in with the white, looking for more patterns to lay down, very soft. And back with the gesso again over top of that. While that's drying, here are our new PDF downloads. We have the 8 Sabbats Wheel of the Year, mapping my magical new year ahead for the titles, and 8 Sabbats. Each one will consist of what it is, the date, the theme, and the idea behind any correspondences and the energies behind what you could rock into this piece. So, back to our coffee stain. Again, this is just done with instant coffee, couple teaspoons, hot water, let it cool down, fill up your bottle, you're good. The bottle will be good for 3 days to about a week before it can go rancid, but you could still use a good blend for a couple days for sure. Now I wound up putting a little bit too much on and it wound up pooling, so I just quickly took care of that. And hit it again. I'm going to be cutting these out, so it just was too dark for me. I like to add some, make it a little bit darker with some color the other way. Again, nice and dry again before I cut it out. Again, it's in the oven for 150 degrees for about 8 minutes for a simple printer paper, 10 to 11 minutes for cardstock paper. And then you can iron your paper to make it flatter. Now that those are all cut out, I'd like to find a bit of a background for the Sabbat titles. I was thinking darker at first, but then I wound up losing the designs on the darker paper. So looking for the perfect paper. See, again, I thought I was going to go darker, but then I think I may need to go lighter on this one. Having a look how this looks, and I feel that if I maybe use some of the Distress Oxide around the edges, I think it'll help punch it out. It'll look sharp. And I wound up going with an even lighter paper than I expected. Again, first I was going to go for dark paper, and I wound up just losing my little emblems here of the Sabbats. That looks sharp. So we got all my edges distressed, and I also took some of this the ink and put it in the center of the piece too to give it some older vintage vibe. Now we're going to get into the double-sided tape, and we're going to put that on the paper, and I'm just going to cut it out just as is, no measuring. I'm going to find a nice spot. And remember to leave a little bit of space between the two so you can cut them right out. And I'm cutting out about 1/8 of an inch perimeter around, so just that The light coffee cream of the paper will just bring it out just a little bit more. Again, save your excess pieces. We will use them in another craft. So again, playing around how we can do this. So I'm going to line up where I'm going to put my stamp. Again, just playing around with ideas. I came up with this idea, and then I wanted, like, I originally had them all on the left-hand side. And trim that off a little bit more. Make that a little bit smaller, but I do like the top, seeing the designs on top. You know what? I'm just not feeling it. I think I got to play around with this a little bit more. All right, let's bring them back over with my original idea. My original idea was to have these all on one page and to have these three on the right-hand side. You know what? What if I center it all? I think that looks cool. All right, we're going for it. I got my little poker here. Going through cardstock, paper, and map so it's nice and thick. And then now we can just insert that through the hole. And we're gonna go right through the paper. Like, I could have hit it through the map, but I'm gonna be doing something on the other side of this that I know I can hide it, so I'm not too worried about it. Now we do have some layers going on with this paper. So we need to make sure while this is being glued down, it's going to stick down. So I'm going to show you a carpentry trick using two different types of glue. One binds it, holds it down while the other glue dries. So we have the double-sided tape. I do this with my washi tape quite a bit too. And then I'll use the white glue to help, it'll dry a little longer, so that'll help bind it in and hold it down in the long run. But with all these layers going on, sometimes just the double-sided tape or just the glue itself is not going to stick it down because the edges kept wanting to come up. So this is one way to secure it pretty good. And I'm just using white Mod Podge here. It doesn't matter if it's gloss or matte, as long as it is not chunky. These ones were not as many layers, so I thought we can just glue them right down. Having no worries with these ones. See some cool backgrounds on this one, but now I wish I'd have used that side. That looks cool. That's okay, it wasn't meant to be. Now, so I don't mush it around, I'm just using some wax paper to help push it down. And I changed my mind, I want to gluing down that paper underneath the dial, which I didn't do in the first place, not sure why not. And now, the reveal. So with our 8 Sabbats, our dates, our themes, our ideas, the symbolism of the Sabbats, you can learn to map the magical new year ahead with different energies that you'd like to embrace for each Sabbat. This could be at the beginning of your grimoire or beginning of a signature for you, or a lovely art journal idea for the beginning of the year. Using the dial for each Sabbat, I would love you to enjoy the energies that I've created for each one, and for you to embrace and enjoy the new year to come. Thanks so very much for hanging out with me, and as always, have a magical day.